Anyway, mate, we're just asking people spiritual questions.
Go on then.
Okay, what do you think happens when we walk out of this life?
We walk out of this life?
When you die?
Well, I think you know, we return to the earth.
Okay. Do you think
It's better than that.
Eh?
Well, I can tell you why. I think all our chemical compounds, you know, return to where they came.
So we're made up of dust and we go back to dust, basically.
That's quite a simple way of looking at it, but yeah, we're made up of exactly the same thing that's all around us.
If heaven is a real place,
Which it isn't.
okay. But if it was,
Yeah, but it isn't. But
okay.
if it was, let's pretend.
would you be good enough to get there? Are you a good person?
Well, then you'd have to come up with like a pretend set of reasons why you get in.
It's a simple question.
Well, it's a simple question, but if it doesn't exist, you've got to come up with a bunch of reasons
But if it
that
does
doesn't
exist.
If it does. Because if
But
I
if
stand the
what
road,
is heaven then?
if I stand the road,
But
and
what
I-
is heaven?
Well,
then?
I agree with you, but in the definition of
But
like,
what is heaven?
well, a place.
You're asking me, do I get into somewhere? But what do I?
well,
what
heaven
do I
is
get
heaven
into?
is a place where you go when you check out of life, depending on the
Well, I think
criteria.
heaven is a place that you try and make in life.
Well, do you think this is heaven? Are you enjoying your life? I mean, there's,
A lot of parts
everywhere
of it,
we
yeah.
look. Everywhere we look, there's. I mean, obviously, you live
I'm
in
lucky,
south of France. You can be
children.
lovely. Yeah, I've got
4
three.
children.
I've got 3 children.
So you know, you can see beauty in them. You can see love in them.
Absolutely.
You can see no prejudgment. Yeah, of course, fella. It might be French strange, but I can smell your change. You know.
When you look at your children and when you look at each person in the world has got a different fingerprint. You know, when you get arrested, they take your fingerprint. Because every single one of us.
So is every bloody animal.
Do you believe?
Every paw print from a tiger is totally different to every other paw print from any
So
other tiger.
would you say that you was an atheist then?
Atheist?
Yeah, you don't believe in God. Do you believe in God at all?
Do I believe? I don't believe.
Do you believe God exists?
No, I believe that basically people can create a much better life. I mean, it's
When we look at the Bible, we look at the historical finds.
yeah, which is fascinating.
There is nothing.
For example, if we
That's
look
ever
at-
disproved it.
Well, there's loads. There's loads. If we
the
go back,
archaeological finds.
Yeah, but if we go back, let's talk about, for example, Babel. You know, Babel. For example, when there was the whole, who was it? When there was the thing about, you know, the priests of which priests was it? Of the Israelites and the priests of Babel. Babel was the fertile god, the god of creation, basically. And there's a whole story in the Bible about they said, okay, you prove that your God is the greatest God by burning, you know, what was on the pyre, and all the guys danced around for Babel and, you know, didn't burn the pyre. The Israelites' God, Yahweh, danced around, burnt the pyre. What was interesting, for the next 300 years after that, Babel was the predominant god amongst all the Israelite tribes. The trouble is with, you know, the Bible and actual history.
And they actually, what they actually did, they actually turned away from God and started worshipping
Well, of course they did.
false gods.
No, but they were worshipping.
And
They weren't
obviously-
worshipping false gods. They were worshipping the rain. They were worshipping all the stuff that nourished them. You know, and then when the climate changed and all their rain dances didn't work, they went back to the idea of one god, the monotheistic idea, which was first started by the god of fire, Zoroaster, which was the first monotheistic god after people came off the steppes in about 3,000 years, and went all through the Indus Valley. You know, the whole history of religion is fascinating, but that doesn't mean that there is one true God. But that also, at the same time, a lot of the ideas about God from a lot of religions are very, very good in themselves, and they do create a better society.
Are you all for the Big Bang theory, which scientists suppose happened, or have you not?
What, the Big Bang Theory?
Yeah,
At the moment,
do you go with that one? Do you go with that one? Is that the one you go with? How the world started?
At the moment, that's more believable than you know. On the 7th day, I rested.
But do you believe that nothing created everything?
Well, no, obviously not. Nothing can't create anything. Well, that's totally
So
illogical.
the thing that gets him,
We
that
can all
does
look
me
up
is,
there and see that there's stuff up there. We're breathing, you know, you know, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. The only way that you know that you're alive is the fact that you think. That's the only thing that you can be certain of. The fact that you are thinking. You can't be certain that when I touch you, you're actually there. So that I'm thinking that I'm touching you, which is making me believe that you're there. So it's my cognition which gives you reality. And that doesn't mean that when I look around me and say, oh, is it the Big Bang Theory? Is it the fact that there was some big sort of mess of compounds that somehow came about and boom,
from nowhere,
here we
yeah.
go. Yeah, but they didn't come from nowhere because we're here. We know that something happened. And if you look at particle physics, potentially there's 14 different levels of perception, 14 different levels where mathematically logic exists on all those different levels.
There's three questions I asked that theory. There's three questions I asked that theory is, the first question for me is what went bang?
I can tell you what went bang. It's all the basic elements that form everything we've got around us.
Where did the basic elements come from?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Because basically there's theories that there was some sort of revolving sort of mass.
Yeah.
What came before it? But I mean, no one knows. Fundamentally, no one knows. All that we know is that we are experiencing what we're experiencing, and different people want to feel more relaxed if they believe that there is some sort of guiding force.
And how do you get life from non-life? That's the next question.
Well, that's a million-dollar question.
And science is an observation.
I mean, well, science is an observation, but the point is with science is that you observe a considerable amount, and then at the end of that, you draw a conclusion, and you perpetually test that conclusion. And if any evidence comes up which disproves it, then that idea dissolves. The whole point is, there's so much evidence now that obviously, for example, if you look at a horse, if you look at any mammal, we've all got 5 digits. The horse's digit just happens to be right up there. If you look at any mammal, we've got 5. If you look at any fish, we've got 5 spines in every single fish's thing. And the idea behind the evolution is that the fish started to come out and be able to use those 5 digits.
So a fish, if it was in the water, did it have lungs or gills?
Well, this is the whole point. There was some.
See, if it had gills.
No, but the great thing is we can look now at fish that can do both. They have gills, but also
they have lungs
have the ability with their lungs to absorb oxygen. Yeah, there's loads of them. Well, there's not loads. I think there's 4 or 5 different types. But yeah, there are fish that have exactly that ability.
But the problem with me with evolution, it keeps taking me back to nothing.
No, but
nothing went bang.
The problem is you have a problem. You have a problem with this idea of nothing. The whole sway of evolution. It's not the whole sway of it that you have a problem with it. It's the fundamental thing that if there's nothing, how can something come of nothing? The fact is with evolution, you can see what came from something.
From nothing.
No, you can see what came from something. But
from nothing.
Can't see.
Where does something come from?
No, but you can see what comes from something. You can see that something happened there and it evolved like that. You can see that. We can accept what was there originally and we can accept what came from that. We don't know what came before that something.
And this is a big problem.
No, but the big problem you've got is that you're dispelling the whole logic of evolution just because it can't explain to you or to me or to anyone what happened before the something, but it can explain everything after that. Everything after that. And so you're choosing to look at a minuscule amount of what is true to hold on to this idea, and it may be true, but there is a very small chance that it is true. Very small chance. And in a way, I'd feel more comfortable if there was some sort of guiding hand, because we have rogered this earth, absolutely rogered it, and we're not doing anything about it. People are talking about God, they're not talking about actually our environment. They're not talking about the fact that we are basically taking compounds from the earth and putting them in the air. Totally, admittedly,
maybe. Go back to his question about what he said about would you feel that you would go on to a better place? I completely agree with you, but one of the initial questions he asked was, do you think that you would get accepted to heaven? So you're coming out.
What is heaven? No one's
okay,
what heaven is.
Okay, can we address your conscience now? We addressed your intellect, and you're a very, very clever man, and I appreciate that. But can we just address your conscience for a while? Because that's another thing that humans have got that we can't explain away. Where does that consciousness come from?
Well, what do you mean by consciousness? The ability to reflect? I mean, they say that what separates us from the animals is that humans have the ability to hope. And that is fundamentally what separates us from the
conscience
animals.
For me is that impartial judge in the courtroom of your mind that never sides with you when you're in the wrong. He's always straight down the middle.
Morality. What is inherently
where does
correct.
That come from? I know you go back to your parents, but it goes all the way back.
Well, no, I mean,
if there's a moral law, there has to be a moral lawgiver.
Well, no, there was a stage in our development where it became beneficial for us to live as a group for protection and everything else, and then it became necessary for us to hold your well-being as importantly as my own personal well-being. And so we would have developed this sense of sort of the communal good from the time where basically it became beneficial for us intellectually, emotionally, socially to form a group because we could live a more productive, safe, harmonious life.
So would you say there is no God?
I would say...
Is that the conclusion you...
I would say at the moment the evidence strongly points towards, unfortunately...
Because for us to say there is no God, we have to have all knowledge.
No, we can't. I'm not saying 100%
we have to know
there is no
how
God.
many fleas there are.
No, I'm not saying there is no God. I'm saying at the moment it is highly unlikely there is a God. And if there is a God, I would like to make the point could really do with coming down, and if there is only one world, because this is the other thing, if there's only one world, which again is highly improbable that there's one world, because if there's more than one world, is there more than one God? Right, okay, but it's highly
do you believe
likely
there's another world somewhere where people exist?
Well, it's highly likely, yeah. I mean, we have, billions of possibilities.
I mean, you say the Earth is, you would say the Earth is billions of years old?
Well, I'd say the Earth
and they've still not found life form anywhere else?
God, we can't even look very far. Let alone travel, even out of our galaxy.
Okay, if heaven is a real place, are you a good person? Are you good enough to get there?
What is heaven? I don't know what heaven is.
Like in general, do you know?
Do I try and look after other people? Is that what you mean?
No. Okay.
What do you mean?
Do you believe hell is a real place? Let's start with that starting point.
No, of course I don't.
So do you believe that
evil exists?
Do you believe that?
But I don't believe that there is like an ultimate evil. In the same way that I believe God exists, but I don't believe that there's an ultimate place where all good people exist.
So
I believe that basically you live and you leave, the memory of yourself and of your actions with the people that you've come across in life.
So how about child molesters, murderers that have never been brought to justice?
I'm not saying that
all these people, do you think they just die and that's it? Priests that have molested kids and
At the same time, if you say that,
have a good evening, man.
At the same time, if you say that and you say that there's a God, why would the God allow that? Are you going back to the fact that Christ died on the cross for our sins and we have free choice, and therefore...
This is my answer to that, okay? Why would God allow that? Now, the time is 10:35. 11:45, if God was to do away with all evil, where would you be? If God destroyed evil?
You said your answer is you're being like
we'd all be out of here, wouldn't we?
But listen to me, you're being Socratic. You're not answering it. You're asking a question. A question doesn't answer. It doesn't give me an answer. You said you had an answer, and you asked me a question. Give me an answer. Don't ask me a question.
All right. The answer is that God's given us free will. We can choose to do immoral things, or we can choose to do moral things.
So now, why is God not protecting that 3-year-old child that's just or somewhere else? She's 3 years old, she's got no control over it. Why is God choosing that it's more important to allow that person to have free will than to protect that young girl's life? Because she will be scarred for the entirety of her life. I'm not going to go into the stuff that Why? Explain to me why. What benefit comes out of that girl being abused or that boy being abused? What benefit? Tell me.
I can understand your question. And
what benefit comes out of it?
No benefit.
Well, then why does God allow
if God has to destroy that evil, He has to destroy all evil.
But what's so bad about destroying all evil?
Because
what's so bad about it?
Life form would end.
Why would life end if there was no evil?
God is holy and righteous. Have you ever lied before, sir?
Of course, everyone's lied.
All right. So in God's eyes, that's evil. Okay. Have you ever stolen before? Taken something that don't belong to you?
Yeah, I've stolen before.
Have you ever looked at a woman to lust after that's not your wife?
But of course I have.
Have you ever taken God's name in vain?
Of course I have.
But you don't believe him, but never mind. Have you ever looked at a woman...
How does this make me a bad person? I look at a girl, I think she's beautiful.
No, I'm talking about going a bit further. Undressing them with your mind. Come on, mate.
You don't need to undress them with your mind. You can go on a bloody computer nowadays and see them undressed.
Well, there you go. The same thing.
Well, it's not the same thing. Because I'm not using my mind, am I? It's just straight in front of me.
Well, it goes into your head, doesn't it? And you focus on it. But listen to this, mate.
I don't disagree that thinking negative thoughts creates negative deeds. But I don't see how God has anything to do with that.
Is lying a good thing?
Is what?
Lying's not a good thing, is it? Stealing's not a good thing.
But what's this got to do with God?
This is what I'm going to come to. by your own admission, yeah? You're a liar, thief, blasphemer, and adulterer at
Don't
heart.
give me the whole Catholic guilt trip. I mean,
I'm not
we've
preaching
used this.
Catholic.
Yeah, but that used to be used.
Not Catholic.
That used to be used in medieval times. Give people a guilt trip. I mean, that was basically what the church was, the Christian church was founded on. This whole idea about eternal damnation.
Well, do you know what it does?
No, wait. The whole idea about the fact of the matter is that, you know, if a child was not christened, it was going to hell. You know,
I don't subscribe to that.
Okay, but you might not subscribe to that, but for well over 1,500 years, the religion you believe in did. So, you
Christianity does not.
Christianity did for 1,500 years believe
Catholic,
that. There was no other
Catholics
Christianity
take,
apart from
Catholic,
Catholicism
Catholic
for
take,
1,500 years.
Catholic
It was
takes
only
that.
with Luther. It was only with Luther.
Catholic takes
It was
that.
only with Luther in Germany in the 14th century, and when you had like the whole what's it called?
Okay, people
the
practicing
point
those
is,
things. Does that make
1,500
God wrong, or does it make them
Christianity
wrong?
disagrees with
It makes
you.
them wrong, doesn't it?
What?
It doesn't make God wrong.
We
If
haven't
people
even
do
established
things,
what God is.
if people do things
But what is
that
God?
are against,
But what
are not
is
according
God?
to the scriptures, to the Bible. I mean, when you think of the Bible, yeah, 66 books written over 1,400 years by 40 different authors, and there's one theme that runs through it.
Okay, but what about the
Prophecy.
books in the Bible that
Prophecy.
were originally in there and aren't in there anymore?
There
What
was
about
nothing-
those?
there-
Well, what about Book X,
the
where obviously
Gospel of
Paul,
Thomas, Luke, about the Gospel of Thomas,
No,
the
not the
Gospel of Mary.
No, Book X. No one knows what Gospel it is. Before Luke, Matthew, and Luke, Matthew. I can't remember what the other two are. Obviously, all come from the same source. You know, any biblical scholar can tell you
40
that.
different
Read-
authors.
No, but
40
seriously,
different
man,
authors. There
read-
are books that are not in the Bible because they weren't considered
seriously.
to line up with the scripture.
Seriously.
There were
Yeah,
false
but who
accusations.
considered
There were
it?
false
Who made the
accusations in
decision?
it.
Who made the decision?
The
church.
council.
The church.
Council.
The church made the decision. You know, we look at Paul and we look at his letters back from the churches he was trying to set up. We look back in history and it appears that a lot of the early churches in Egypt were quite female affairs. The church, coming, you know, historically was a very male dominated, well, the whole society was male dominated. When we look in history, there's only been 2 occasions in history where females have in fact been in, there's 100 years in the 12th century in Japan, where females were in fact in charge of society. And you know, now we're very enlightened talking about women, and yet where's women in the Bible? Where's their role? Subservient. Where's women in the Quran? Subservient, and yet the
I'm not
biggest.
preaching the Quran now.
Okay, but
For
you're
me,
talking.
I throw that out the window because
Oh, give me
when
a
a book,
break. It's half the same bloody book.
no, it's not, mate.
Of course it. My God, read
listen,
the Quran.
listen, when
read the Quran and
what
then
the
tell
Quran
me.
says.
I
The
know
Quran
I've
says-
read the Quran. Have you read the Quran?
the Quran says,
you read it?
I've not read it all, but I've read it. The Bible says the sun sets in a pool of mud.
Do you want
If a book says that, you've got to throw it out,
Let
haven't
me
you?
tell you something
Have you
interesting.
not?
Let me
Have
tell
you
you
not?
something interesting.
Have
about
you
Islam.
not?
No, of course not.
You
I'm
believe that,
saying
yeah?
100 of different things. Tell you something interesting about Islam. Muhammad originally, do you know where he prayed? The first 2.5 years, do you know where he prayed? He prayed to Jerusalem. And do you know what the Muslims believe is going to happen at the end of the world? Who's coming back? God, Muhammad and Jesus. That is true. That's what they
false, that's
believe.
false.
Okay, but that's what they believe. The point is, I'm trying to make Muhammad pray towards Jerusalem like your God for 2.5 years, well, maybe a bit less, for 2 years.
Didn't pray to
Do you
God
know-
of the Bible.
No, do you know why?
The Quran says that anyone that
Do you
will
know
not
why
convert
you-
to
why
Islam,
are you
you
not
should
into-
slay them with the sword.
My God, do you understand
Okay.
the historical context
Slay
of
them
what was
with a
going on?
sword.
No, do you understand what? Let me just
Muhammad
explain.
was appeared to an angel of light. Muhammad was illiterate.
That's totally true. That is totally true. He was illiterate. We look at Christianity, we look at Brazil, we look at the Catholic Church, especially the Spaniards.
Bruv, I'm not
they
preaching
took it-
Catholic.
Same
Catholics
book.
say you can go into a priest, okay?
Same
You can
book.
say 5 Hail Marys, you can confess your sins to him, and he can forgive you.
So what
That-
type of Christianity?
That
There's
is not
hundreds
the
of
Bible.
different-
That is
There's-
not the
okay,
Bible.
What type of
That is not the Bible,
do you?
okay?
So what? Are you a
There's only,
Protestant? Are you
the
a
Bible
Protestant?
says this, there's
You're a
only one
Protestant?
mediator between God and man, and that's Jesus. The priest can't forgive you because he's a sinner like the rest of us. The only person that who has the power to forgive sin is Christ. Okay, Muhammad is dead and he stayed dead. Okay, Buddha is dead and he's still dead. His bones are somewhere. Jesus died and rose again from the dead.
Buddha never said he was a god.
Buddha said, "I'm still searching for the truth" on his deathbed.
Buddha never said he was a god. He said the god was inside you.
Okay, so
He didn't say he
you
was
keep
a
coming
god.
back until you get
He's
things
not-
right.
it's not a religion.
You're going to Nirvana.
No, he said that basically by your behaviour, by your traits, by the actions you behave, very similar to what Christianity says. That
Yeah, so if you're having a
good
bad
to your
life
neighbour,
now,
if you're good
it
to your
means
neighbour,
in your last life you was evil and wicked. This is why you're having this karma now.
No, that's the actions that you. No,
You've committed in your past life, and you keep returning until you get it right.
Look, it's difficult because if
And
you.
none of us can get it right. But I'm not preaching Catholic. Catholic is totally
I'm not saying
different
you are.
from Christian.
Well, it's not, is it? Because
you're
for
putting it under the
1500,
same
for
umbrella.
1500 years, they're exactly the same thing.
No, it wasn't. That's
For
the
only
Catholic,
a
not the Christian.
quarter of Christians' history has there been any difference between Catholicism and Protestantism.
Well, we don't subscribe to the Catholic Church.
Look at what's the difference between what you subscribe to and what they subscribe to, because you obviously follow the same book.
Well, there is a very key point to the Catholics and the Christians, which are very
The
different.
Catholics are Christians. Let's just get that clear.
Catholics are not Christians.
They believe in
There are Catholics. If you've got your faith and trust in Jesus, you're a Christian, whether you're in a Catholic church or not. If you subscribe to what the Catholic says,
you cannot be a Catholic
go into
without
confession
putting
box, go into confessions box, confess your sins to a man, and walk out of there thinking you're forgiven, and you're not. Because there's only, like the Bible says, there's no other name under heaven by which men must be saved apart from Jesus.
Yeah, but you're not asking the
Not
priest.
Muhammad.
You're not asking the priest.
Not the priest.
If you're a Catholic and you go in to confessional, you're not asking the priest to forgive you. You're asking God to forgive you.
Shall I tell you about some more heresy about the Catholics?
I can tell you loads of silly things about the
When you take
Catholics.
communion, the blood that you take,
Transubstantiation, yeah, I know.
they actually believe that's Jesus'
I know,
blood.
there's so
So it
many
falls on the floor,
ridiculous things.
Jesus falls on the floor. If you take the bread and you drop a bit, you drop Jesus on the floor.
But this is
Now that's not Christian,
But
mate.
of course it's Christian. It was
That's not
Christian for
Christian.
1,500 years.
I'm a
That was
Christian,
the
we don't
only-
believe that.
Okay,
Where
but
does it
that's
say in
only
the
the
Bible?
last 500
It says in the
years.
Bible, do this in remembrance of me. Okay? So we can't.
Why can't you do it remembering
tarnish
you? Why can't you do
blood.
it remembering you, believing that it is actually the
Well,
body?
because we can't subscribe to transubstantiation. See, all other religions are work righteous, mate. You have to do certain things with the Muslims. You have to pray 5 times a day. You have to give zasat. You have to do all these different rituals to get to that place. And at the end of it, your good and bad are outweighed. If you're done more than good than bad,
Listen to me.
I'll let you in if you don't.
Listen to me. Zoroastrianism, you don't have to do that, okay? You don't have to. Buddhism, you don't have to do that. So don't tell me that the only religion where
work
Buddhism
righteous.
really
They're all
is.
work righteous. You have
But
to do
that's not
certain
true,
things.
because
Christianity
in
says there's
Buddhism
nothing
you
you
don't
can
have to
do.
do that.
It's all about what
Zoroastrianism-
Jesus did on the cross.
You know, Shambhavism, you don't. There's loads of religions where you don't have to do that. So it's not just Christianity which says you don't have to do that.
Who is
That's
the
not
saviour
what-
for all these other religions?
There is no saviour. We are our own saviours.
We can't save ourselves. Can you save yourself?
Who else is going to save us?
Who's going to save you from
You
your
just
sin?
said God is not willing to save a
Who's going to save you from your sin? Let's wrap this up, yeah?
millstone, throwing it to
Whether you believe this or not, mate, you're going to stand before God in judgment, whether you believe it or not, it's up to you.